We filled it up. It looks great. Yeah. We are so happy to welcome Beto to Meredith, to Cummings Bay, and to my house. And it's all yours.
Thank you very much. I may, if it works for everybody, not use the microphone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Up in the balcony?
Yes.
Okay, great. You all can hear me here?
Yes. All right.
Kate, thank you for opening up your home. And just to publicly disclose, invite me to swim afterwards. Okay, so I didn't bring a swimsuit, but I brought my running shorts, which have been drying after our morning run, and so I'm going to put them to good use. This is absolutely beautiful. I just want to tell you from someone who comes from the Chihuahuan Desert, we don't have these gigantic lakes and all this green stuff that you call trees. This is really beautiful. And our entire day, our entire visit to New Hampshire so far, this is our fourth visit, has been absolutely extraordinary. This is, from my limited vantage point, the best time of year to show up here. Best possible weather, starting from our morning run in Merrimack, where we're running down this, I guess, country road and just enjoying the beauty and the splendor and the weather around us. And I quickly learned it's best to enjoy New Hampshire while in motion. Because as soon as we stopped, what I thought was an owl, which turned out to be a mosquito, came to attack us. And so Rob and I quickly had to get running again, but enjoyed town halls throughout the day. In Amherst, in Andover, in Manchester, now here in Meredith. Beautiful weather, beautiful people, great questions and comments and suggestions and ideas. I'm looking forward to hearing yours after I finish introducing myself. So thank you for being part of this extraordinary day and being part of this amazing democracy, which is being tested unlike any other time in this country's history. If ever there were a defining moment of truth, at least in the lifetimes of those who are here today, then it is this one right now. And I'm very encouraged by what I've seen and what I've heard from people about how we're going to meet this moment. Last night, we had just gotten in to New Hampshire, came out to one of these amazing vigils, the Lights for Liberty, that are being held all over the country. And here we were in New Hampshire, 150 people, 2,000 miles from the U.S.-Mexico border. We're standing up for those kids in detention, acknowledging that we're incarcerating more children who've committed no crime, your very age, than in any time in this country's history. Folks are willing to stand up for those kids and ensure that they bear witness and testify to their fellow Americans, convinced that once it's on your conscience, you know that it's up to you to do something about it. And as that understanding and awareness spreads throughout this country, so too, do I believe, is the will to change what is happening right now. We do not have to wait till November of 2020. We don't have to wait until January of 2021 when the next president takes office. We can force that change right now. It is the only way that we produced any meaningful change in this country. We were acknowledging just a few weeks ago the 55th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act. And as a fellow Texan, grateful that Lyndon Baines Johnson signed that into law. Grateful as a fellow New Englander of yours that John Fitzgerald Kennedy first introduced it. But both men were really responding to the public pressure that had formed in this country after the civil rights marchers who rode in the front of the bus or took those Greyhound buses in the freedom rides in the Deep South. Those who followed John Lewis across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama. The kids your age who led this march in Birmingham, Alabama in 1963. 1,200 of them were arrested, spent the night in jail, fighting for their civil rights, and that finally forced this country to do the right thing. I'm convinced as we learn these children's stories, what's happening to this country in our name, we're going to build the consciousness and the awareness to force that change. And really that holds true for any big thing that we want to do. We were not too far from here, I guess, in the scheme of New Hampshire in Gorham on our first visit. And I remember sitting down in a room with 10 or 12 people, just asking them what was on their mind. And this one woman slid across the table a receipt for her copay on the medication that keeps her alive. And she says, when you add this up over the course of a year, it costs me $10,000, and that's with insurance, to be able to take the medication that ensures that I survive. I'm supposed to take 3 of these pills a day. I take 2 or I take 1 to try to ration them so that I can put food on the table, pay the note on the mortgage to keep a roof over my head. Meeting her made the issue of healthcare very personal for me. A couple of weeks ago, we were in Iowa, and we met the family of a young girl named Petra, significantly disabled, medically complex and expensive to take care of, and her mother, through tears, was asking me whether there would ever be a lifetime cap on the amount of money that it would cost to be able to take care of her daughter, Petra. Whether protections for pre-existing conditions like the one that her daughter has are ever going to become something that she has to worry about. Again, she has enough on her hands right now. She is the all-time 24-hour-a-day caregiver for her child. She doesn't want to have to worry about jumping through hoops or red tape with the insurance company, or fearing that we will literally change the law that's protecting her daughter's life. My ability, your ability to see ourselves in Petra or in her mother or the woman that we met in Gorham, that's how we get the change that we need to see, which ends in universal, guaranteed, high-quality health care for every single American. That means primary health care, the ability to afford your medications, mental health care. I don't know how it is in New Hampshire, but in Texas, the largest provider of mental health care services is the county jail system. The largest inpatient provider is the Harris County Jail in Houston, Texas. That is in a state of 28 million people, meaning that at meetings like these, I've met people who raised their hand and told me, my brother gets arrested on purpose so that his schizophrenia can be treated in the one place he's guaranteed the care. We know that not only is her brother locked up, as is all his potential, but it costs us as a taxpayer $110 a night to do so. Imagine what we would pay a fraction of the cost for world-class outpatient mental health care treatment. That person's well enough to live their life, raise their kids, work that job, create works of art, whatever they're on this planet to do, I want them to be well enough to be able to do that. And then this, we know in many states, my home state included, that governors and state legislatures have effectively and functionally contravened the 1973 decision, Roe versus Wade. More than a quarter of the family planning clinics in Texas have closed down, which means that not only are we denying safe, legal access to an abortion, we're also denying access to a cervical cancer screening, which can be life-saving, family planning help, or just a provider at all in a state that has failed to expand Medicaid, meaning there are millions who earn too much to enroll in Medicaid and yet not enough to afford private insurance. That is not unconnected to a maternal mortality crisis that is 3 times as deadly for women of color in my state and across the country. The answer to that is making sure that health care is for everyone, is universal, is guaranteed, is without question, and also includes every woman's right to make her own decisions about her own body. We've got to see a couple of other quick things that I've listened to and learned from the people that I've met in New Hampshire. Every single meeting today, I've heard about PFAS, which is not a term or an acronym that I understood before my first visit to New Hampshire. Learned that the firefighting foam that we use on federal military installations, the nonstick coating that we put on our pans, all that stuff has leached into our water system and is literally coming out of the tap right now. Learning that story makes it a priority, makes it more urgent for me, but also connects it to other people I've met across this country who can also not drink the water upon which they should be able to depend. We were in Denmark, South Carolina, which is not too far from Norway, South Carolina, and Sweden. we guessed that there was a Viking invasion at some point, pre-revolutionary American history. They had been treating their water there with something akin to pool cleaner. They have so fouled the system that it has to be rebuilt from scratch at a cost of $15 million. The The tax base in Denmark, South Carolina cannot support that capital project. The state, for whatever reason, is not willing to do that. But when I can connect Denmark to New Hampshire, to Flint, Michigan, to the Central Valley of California, to 50 different water systems in the state of Texas where you cannot drink the water, then we have a national problem that necessitates a national solution. We brought ourselves into the challenge in common, and in common we will be able to fix it. Much like I've learned from listening to people in New Hampshire, that you have the highest level of student loan indebtedness in the country, not unrelated to the fact that this is one of the oldest states by average age in the country. Young people cannot afford to stay in this state, to get educated in this state. What are the answers? Listening to people here in New Hampshire, they have told me, let's make sure that at a minimum, the first 2 years of higher education are free. Let's make sure that a 4-year education is debt-free for lower income and middle income students, and debt-free not just for tuition, but for room and board and books, the full cost of higher education. But in addition, y además, let's also make sure that we're not forgetting unions and those young people who want to enter a trade or a profession by joining an apprenticeship where they will learn a skill that will allow them to work and live in dignity for the rest of their lives and command a living wage from today until the end of their working life. That's something that we've heard from people here in New Hampshire. We should be able to do that. Lastly, how do we meet all of these great challenges in this country together? Some of these solutions we've known about previous to the Trump administration, previous even to the Obama administration, and yet they've eluded the ability for either of those administrations or the ones before them to get it done. I think the answer is in this democracy that you all take especially seriously here in New Hampshire, vetting candidates like me many times over before you make that commitment. A democracy that we saw reawakened in Texas. We went to every single one of the 254 counties in our state, including in Austin, Texas, home to UT, and made sure that no one was written off and no one was taken for granted, brought every single person into our solutions, showed up with the courage of our convictions, but also a willingness to listen and learn. And at the end of the day, a state that had previously ranked 50th in voter turnout showed up at an unprecedented rate. Our midterm turnout almost eclipsed a presidential year turnout. We won more votes than any Democrat had in the history of the state of Texas, won independents and 500,000 Republicans who also voted for a Republican for governor and me on the same ballot. And though I didn't defeat Ted Cruz, we were 2.5 points short at the end of the night. We elected 2 new members to the House of Representatives, both Democrats, replacing long-serving Republicans, helping to flip the House there, change the composition of our state legislature, 17 African-American women elected to judicial positions in Harris County, literally changing the face of criminal justice in the most diverse city in the United States of America. And then most importantly, for our current purposes, the 38 electoral college votes in Texas have been unlocked for the first time in my adult lifetime, for the first time since 1976, when Jimmy Carter was the last Democrat to win them. Those 38 electoral college votes forever changed the electoral map and what is possible in the United States of America. When we show up for everyone, include everyone into this democracy, there's no stopping our ability to defeat Donald Trump or to bring this very divided country back together to face the greatest challenges we have ever known. So, looking forward to what you have to say here tonight, to be able to answer your questions and to hear what's on your mind. Thank you for coming out. Especially want to thank Kate for the invitation. Also, I don't know if he's here yet, but I know Carlos Cardona had done a lot of organizing around this, and Lynn Thomas was instrumental in making this a success. So thanks to everyone for all of Cynthia's got a microphone, although I bet we can hear each other without it.
Maybe for upstairs.
Okay.
I think this gentleman had the first question.
Yes. About a year ago, I had open heart surgery. I have congestive heart failure. It's a pre-existing condition. The Affordable Care Act saved my life. Okay, now, if you take a look at the oral argumentation, at the recent case in the Fifth Circuit down in New Orleans, it seems more and more likely the ACA is going to be struck down before the election takes place. Now, whatever care plan you favor, at my most optimistic, you're elected president, we hold the House, and we take the Senate. But even when I'm really drunk and optimistic, I don't imagine us taking 60 seats in the Senate. So my question is, I know you don't have authority over the Senate, but would you call for the end of the filibuster in the Senate if you were to win the presidency and we were to win the Senate?
This is an incredibly tough question. Let me just tell you why. This country works best, as I mentioned earlier, when everyone is brought in. And we have some mechanisms like the filibuster that try to force some bipartisanship and some consensus on the most challenging and difficult issues. And yet, we've never seen a Congress and a federal government as dysfunctional as the one that we have today, not completely owing to partisanship, and I don't want to say a pox on both houses. The Republican majority that you have in the Senate, Mitch McConnell in particular, said that his number one goal was not ensuring that every American's well enough to live to their full potential, or everyone has a job, or this economy is working. He wanted to make President Obama a one-term president, and then after that he wanted to deny him his last year in office and the ability to nominate someone to the Supreme Court. So with that level of paralysis and dysfunction, these kinds of challenges, whether it's healthcare or climate, 10 years left to meet the most existential crisis we have ever faced, I'm willing to ensure that we do everything possible within the bipartisan framework that we have right now, but failing that, to take every step necessary to make sure that we save the lives of our fellow American, stave off the impending disaster of climate by coming together as a country, and meet each and every single challenge that awaits us. So it is only with that as an absolute last option that I even entertain the idea of supporting the end of the filibuster. Thank you for asking. Appreciate it.
We have a question upstairs, Beto?
Yeah.
Hi, so when you were talking about medical health insurance, it sounded like you're talking about Medicaid for all, right? And my question is, I have a big issue with this because I don't understand the structure of that and how that works. You're talking to someone, I happen to be able to afford health insurance. My family can afford it. A lot of people in this room can.
Yeah.
And it worries me when you talk about that. How do you implement that and how does that actually work? How's that going to impact the system that we have?
Yeah.
How's the transition going to work? How are we going to get to a system where everybody can have health insurance? I know Obamacare is trying to do that. What is different about what you're talking about?
Yeah.
How's it going to be implemented?
Yeah, thanks for asking the question. So I mentioned these three values: universal, meaning everyone, no one excluded; high quality; and then guaranteed, because we know that a lot of people have health insurance today, but are not guaranteed health care, cannot afford their copay or their premium or bridge that deductible. So how do we meet that challenge? First, under our plan, everyone who does not have health care can enroll in Medicare immediately. Everyone who's insufficiently insured, meaning they can't afford their copays, that woman that I described in Gorham, she can enroll in Medicare. But you who have employer-sponsored insurance and you like it because it works for you, you keep it. The union member who negotiated for a health care plan, perhaps in lieu of a wage increase or other earned benefits, and likes that plan because it works for her and her family, she can keep that. So universal health care while preserving choice for the tens of millions of Americans who have insurance that they like, I think that is the best way to get to guaranteed, high-quality, universal care. Thanks, Ashley.
We're still upstairs.
Yes, got it.
So we get all these surveys about what our priorities are, and I know January 2021 is a long way away, but if you were elected in January 2021, as of right now today, what would you say your first priority is?
So thinking about the younger folks who are with us right now, climate and understanding that the floods that are happening at unprecedented levels, the storms, the droughts, the fires that we are seeing, all of which are becoming more profound and more frequent and more devastating and deadly. Everything that we're seeing right now will pale in comparison to what they see when they're my age, unless we make every use of every second left to us over the next 10 years, which is the window that scientists say that we have to act before is too late, to keep warming below 2 degrees Celsius. I have kids who are 12, 11, and 8. I fear their judgment when they look back, when they're my age, which will be after the year 2050, and they're looking back on this moment in 2019. You knew what was happening, Dad. What did you do? Everything else that we want to accomplish is only possible if we literally save the planet for those who succeed us. So, I'm tempted to add on all of these other issues that we want to fight for, from healthcare to immigration to a more inclusive economy, but climate is the defining existential issue of this moment, and we've got to meet it head on. So, thanks for asking. Hey.
And I'm an ACLU voter, which means I'm concerned by the harmful practice of LGBTQ conversion therapy. Last year, New Hampshire was one of 18 states to ban this practice. Would you commit to a nationwide ban on conversion therapy?
Yes. Thank you for asking the question. And here's what we need to do in addition to a federal ban on conversion therapy. We need to sign into law the Equality Act so the full civil rights of every single American are respected. In some states, like my home state, you can be fired based on your sexual orientation. You can be denied the ability to adopt a child based on your sexual orientation. We will rescind the transgender troop ban implemented by this president and honor the service of anyone in this country who wants to put their life on the line for the rest of us. And then I want to make sure that we squarely confront the fact that you have a rise in hate crimes, including against the LGBTQ community, every single year for the last 3 years under this administration. Important not just to respect and to tolerate our differences, but to fully embrace them as foundational to the strength of this country. So I want to make sure that we do all of that and that we do it together. Thanks for asking. Appreciate it.
I'm Aviva, and I'm a proud American Jew. And a couple months ago, I had the privilege of visiting Israel-Palestine, and my niece she's 2, she's super cute. And she lives outside of Tel Aviv, and we spent a lot of time playing at the parks and dancing to Hebrew music and American music. But before I went to visit my family, I witnessed the atrocities of these Israeli military occupation and the way that it affects the lives of millions of Palestinians on a daily basis. And I actually saw 2 Israeli soldiers choking a 15-year-old Palestinian boy about closer than the distance that we are right now. And as I was watching that, feeling pretty helpless, I also found myself feeling responsible because I was looking at the Israeli soldier and seeing the weapons and seeing American dollars that are continuing to fund the occupation. And so I'm really hoping to know, as president, would you commit to putting direct pressure on the Israeli government to end the occupation?
The answer is yes, we'll work directly with the government of Israel, directly with the Palestinian Authority in pursuit of a 2-state solution. It is the only way, as far as I understand it, that we can guarantee the safety, the security, the human rights, and the dignity of everyone in the West Bank, of everyone in